Hey, Open Bible. This is Steve with Midweek Reflection. We haven't done one of these in a while, been in a bit of transition. And I wanted to follow up on this past Sunday where we began to teach the new vision. And we stopped for a bit of time to read through the sticky notes on this Miro board, Miro being this online whiteboard. And I wanted to pause because we're going to send out the slides, the sticky notes from that Miro board. But I wanted to let you know that the list wasn't deterministic. It wasn't a list that determined this is exactly what it's going to look like. This was a list of possibility. It was a list of dreaming, of imagining what could this community look like in 5 to 10 years. What could it be? And we wanted to share our hearts with you about the possibility of where we could be as a faith community. So again, this list, as you read it, it's not that every single thing on this list is an absolute, we're going to do this. It's a list of possibility, of inspiration, of what could happen. And so picking up on where we left off, the vision we landed on and the mission is Open Bible Fellowship exists to be a vibrant community of Christ followers whose lives are being transformed by the love of God. That's the vision. And we will accomplish this by joining Jesus in cultivating a love for God, a love for one another, and a love for our neighbors. And so ultimately we landed on organic language of a garden. You see, the Bible begins in a garden and it ends with a garden in the heart of the city. And all throughout we have images of Israel being depicted as a vineyard. Jesus uses these agrarian parables of seeds and sowing and fields and vineyards and kingdom growth. And Paul speaks of tilling and planting and growing, of being rooted and firmly established in God's love. With this amazing picture in John 15 of God as the gardener, with an invitation for us to abide in his love. So cultivation then is the language of discipleship and disciple making. You see, we join Jesus in the whole process of tilling the soil and planting the seed of gospel transformation, of watering, of weeding, pruning, growing, and helping to bear fruit in ourselves and in those around us. A quote from John Pattison and Chris Smith in their book Slow Church says this: "Instead of cultivating a deep, holistic discipleship that touches every aspect of our lives, we've confined the life of faith to Sunday mornings, where it can be kept safe and predictable, or to a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, which can be managed from the privacy of our own home. Following Jesus has been diminished to a privatized faith rather than a lifelong apprenticeship undertaken in the context of a Christian community." So the commitment to cultivation then, for us, is the commitment to the slow and steady work of the gardener, God, in our lives and in the lives of those around us. In Psalm 1, we have this picture of a tree, of a righteous person depicted as a tree. It was planted by streams of water, and they're bearing fruit in season. Their leaves do not wither, and whatever they do, they prosper. And so undergirding this language of cultivation is a realization that discipleship takes time. And if we want to raise up righteous trees and righteous people, we need to tend the soil. We need to plant seeds. We need to weed and water and make sure that all of this has access to the source of life, God, so that we can help it to grow, to be faithful and fruitful in season. So this vibrant community of Christ followers whose lives are being transformed by the love of God, this takes the entire community. We are the body of Christ. We are joining Jesus in cultivation. We join Jesus in the task of gardening, of getting our hands dirty and earthy in the soil. And so Paul says this in 1 Corinthians 3. He says, "I planted, Apollos watered, but God gave the growth. So then, neither the one who plants nor the one who waters is anything, but only God who gives the growth. Now, he who plants and he who waters are one, but each will receive his own reward according to his labor. For we are God's co-workers. You are God's field, God's building." So this week, as we reflect on the first iteration of the presentation of this vision, and this coming Sunday where Chad's going to begin to unpack the great commandment and language of cultivation and where we're going as a faith community, keep in mind that the language of cultivation, the idea of what we're doing here, it's a slow and steady work where we join Jesus in this process of discipleship and disciple making. So have a good week, and if you want to read more, check out Psalm 1, check out 1 Corinthians 3, read the parable of the sower as a good parable for what we're doing here. Thanks.